Good day. Welcome to another episode of APC's Swine Trends Podcast, episode number 7. Today we're going to talk about cutting costs without cutting corners. And our guest with us today is Dave Chamberlin with Vita. Hello, I'm your host, Randy Leete. I'm the National Accounts Manager with APC. Our guest, Dave Chamberlin, is the Swine Technical Sales Manager for Vita. He's a graduate of Michigan State University. His degree was with monogastric nutrition. Dave joined Vita in 2018, and he's responsible for tech services and nutritional development for swine producers in the upper Midwest and Eastern Corn Belt. Dave has vast experience with previous experience in farm management and sow management. Dave, thanks a lot for being here. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. I think an important topic today. We all know what costs are, high feed cost, challenging markets, and from our standpoint at APC, we like to bring information that's useful, everyday information that producers could put in their toolbox. And we're excited to have you here for our podcast. And we want you to share with us what you're seeing out in the industry, how producers are coping with the record high production cost, and what cuts they're trying to make to stay profitable without hurting their production. So again, I'm your host, Randy Leete. I'm with APC, and our guest presenter, Dave Chamberlin with Vita. Dave, good morning.
Good morning, Randy. Thank you so much for having me. So, just you asked to kind of talk a little bit about what I'm seeing on the countryside right now, and it's really interesting in our swine industry right now because it's really the world of the haves and the have-nots. And what I mean by that, if you started like booking the whole hog crush back in August of last year for spring and through the summer, you could be sitting really well right now. I mean, granted, you still are battling some labor issues, you might be battling some health challenges, but from what you have your corn and soybean meal booked at and what you have your hogs booked at, you could very well have a profit locked in. Flip side is if you ended up where you were a little overexposed, you end up paying some really high corn prices that we've seen, some really high soybean meal prices that we've seen, and with the hog market's just been a bloodbath the last few weeks. It's you're in a very uncomfortable position, and so what I have a little bit is almost kind of a bimodal approach going on right now, depending on the position of the producer, and that is made it a fun challenge, but also interesting in that by no fault of necessarily anyone, you could have a producer that had a marketing plan that worked, another producer that had a marketing plan that might have worked every year but this year, and so it's definitely created an interesting time out in the field.
Good. How big, Dave, I gave you an introduction, upper Midwest. You cover most of the eastern United States for Vita?
Yes, absolutely, Randy. So I'm responsible for our sales and tech team east of the Mississippi, and that primarily means I spend the majority of my time in Michigan, Illinois, Ohio, and Indiana, and love all the producers in those states. I do get out west some with my knowledge of managing sow farms, but for the most part, what I can speak today is what's going on in the east. I do think it's worth mentioning, though, we're battling somewhat a different set of issues in some ways, east versus west. West, of course, with the Wyndham plant filing for bankruptcy, is kind of battling one set of packer issues. Out east, we're battling another set of packer issues, in that we have these cheap Canadian hogs that have been flooding our market for a while, and then late this fall, we're going to be getting even more. Now the upside is Clemens plant is, of course, keep saying that they're pushing to add this second shift, and so we're really hopeful that happens. But packer margins are also terrible right now. So both sides of whether you're in the Eastern Corn Belt or Western Corn Belt have their own set of issues. But today I'm probably most versed in what's going on out east.
Okay, good. Yeah, we continue to see challenges in our industry. We talked earlier, the sow market right now is really down. There's been several plans announced where large producers are shutting down some units, and you shared with me earlier you had producers. The sow market prices dipped all the way down to what, 18 cents, you said?
Yeah, and I do think it does depend on those are maybe sometimes extenuating circumstances, but we have several sow farms that are doing depops, repops, and if you want to sell multiple whole loads of sows, we've had to take some pretty cheap prices just to get them moved.
Yep, and uncharacteristic for this time as the ballparks gear up. Usually sow markets are higher right now, but I think it just goes to show the demand. People are making changes in the industry. We've seen a trend back to more sow depop, repops, based on disease that we haven't seen in the last decade. So that put pressures on it, and now with the markets being the way they are, it's just not been a good scenario from that standpoint. But it's interesting to see producers making moves for their long-term success. And I think that's what we want to talk about today. I mean, our title is Cutting Costs Without Cutting Corners. You see things out in the industry that hopefully we can expound on today. So I guess probably my first question for you is, with production costs at record levels, where do you see producers really focusing their efforts to reduce costs? There's a broad range. We've seen some reduced market weights. We see a reduction in the labor force. Obviously, your area, we see feed and diet changes, vaccines. We've heard stories of maybe some of our disease issues because people have cut back on vaccines or the doses that they're given. Obviously, facilities, energy, ventilation, and repairs add up. So that's a broad range. I'm gonna let you dive into that one and see what comes to the top.
Yeah, no, absolutely, a loaded question, but yeah, no. So again, what I think is interesting is we have this kind of scenario where we have producers that are pretty well positioned, but probably a little nervous about the fall, and we have producers that are not in the greatest position for the summer right now, and I see their reactions to these record high production levels very, very different. And so yes, of course, we will reduce some market weights, and we work with customers on figuring that out based on the packer they're going to, and market price and feed costs, etc. That's certainly something we're implementing on some farms. In terms of labor force, the one thing I think's been really interesting is one of the things is, if you're one of my customers or you're around me much, you'll hear me say this all the time, that there's only three ways a farm can make money, and I think it's important that we remember that, right? You can either able to sell your pigs at a higher price, right? So you're getting more income. You're either reducing costs, you're spending less to get that, or you're making some move to improve efficiency. And kind of what we've seen is producers from a labor standpoint, where they're having to pay more for good labor, and a lot of producers are doing that. And that's and in some cases their outgoing costs are unfortunately a little more fixed than maybe we've experienced in the past. And right now with the situation in the hog market, that they might be kind of stuck. So that's really forces them to focus on the efficiency piece and find areas in their operation where they can get more efficient. And in some of those, it's been implementing some different nutritional strategies that make sense for that producer. You mentioned vet costs. One thing I think's what I love about the hog industry is the producers we work with. I mean, they really care about their pigs. They do a great job, and I never see them really cut corners from a vet cost standpoint. What we do see when we have this, these market pressures that make it a little uncomfortable for the producer, is they get more judicial in their antibiotic use, and I think that's probably a good thing for the industry overall, right? When times are good and you're battling health challenges, it might be a little easier to really put some pressure on your veterinarian to maybe bring other things to the table. And then when times get a little tighter, you end up seeing that go, okay, so what's the real health status of our pigs, and where do we need to be? And I've been real impressed, like I said, just all around, and how serious the producers we work with take their herd health, and how great the veterinarians have been at working to provide solutions that make sense to maintain the best welfare we can for the pig, as well as mind the pocketbook. So, from an energy and ventilation standpoint, I don't know that I see people necessarily making any huge cuts or huge changes, but definitely some moves to get more efficient, right? In some of these farms that maybe historically been weaned to finish, and maybe you'll double stock one half and run it warm. They've invested in some brooders and kind of changed their game up to be a little more conservative in terms of whether it's liquid propane or natural gas use. Also, definitely we're with the warm weather coming, we've been real eager to get those barns opened up, get air moving on those pigs with these health challenges. That's something that allows us to do that. That's kind of a win-win. It's cheaper to run fans typically than it is to run a heater, so that works out well for us. And in terms of facility repairs, you had mentioned, I'm seeing maybe a little cutting on that, but again, all the producers we work with, any cutting costs of facilities are mainly non-essential projects. The gating and pens and everything the pig comes in contact with, I still see being real, handled really well, and those repairs are being made. But maybe some things like resurfacing a driveway or maybe some of these kind of other costs. Yeah, we're probably seeing those cut back a little bit. But I think the main thing is producers are finding areas in their operation where they can get more efficient, whether that be in marketing or feed or veterinarian expenses.
Okay, Dave, are we seeing a trend overall in the industry with disease lowering a little bit? The last couple of years have been pretty high on the list. We see some new diseases emerging in some of the sows, but overall it seems like maybe it's come down a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's part of our problem, Randy. I think one of the issues we had, and you'd hear other market experts talk about it all the time. But we probably had a bigger sow herd than we should have had in the U.S. if all our pigs were healthy. And I think what you're seeing is, you kind of brought it up in the last year, we've had a lot of depops, repops, still battling some of the F18 E. coli, still battling some streps, but by and large, reduction in PRRS positive hogs that we're feeding, whether it be from repops or vaccinating their way out of it or whatever. And I think that's been part of the problem, is that as these herds have gotten healthier, we've got a few too many pigs coming to town for the demand.
Okay. So thanks, Dave. So as we look at the nutritional side of things, most of our production in the Midwest is geared to a corn soy diet. Have you visited with any producers about other base ingredients? And with those, what are some of the trade-offs?
Absolutely. So, interestingly enough, the world shifted to kind of a corn soy based diet. From my little corner of the world, I love a lot of the byproducts we have available out east, and I still fed a lot of high byproducts over the last year and a half or so, and that's been a positive thing in most cases, provided mycotoxin levels and consistency of ingredients and flowability all work out for the farm. That's something we love to implement. So we probably never really stopped as much as some other nutritionists might have, just whether it be to comfortability with the products or location, trucking's been a big one. So no, but we probably never really stopped. But yeah, we're definitely looking at other ingredient opportunities and some other ways we're working with producers to feed pigs, right? We're definitely leaning on some different nutritional technologies, and with fat costs have come down a little bit, but they've been really, really high. So summer diets, I think, are just going to be looking different this summer, with cheap hogs and a higher fat cost. We probably won't be pushing the energy this summer quite to the level we have in summers past.
Okay. Have you seen many folks making those diet changes early? Obviously, at APC with our plasma products, we work a lot in the nursery diets. Read an interesting article last week that was comparing a simple diet versus a complex diet. Obviously, the complex diet's more expensive, but really showed that as we go to those simpler diets, producers are really giving up some gains and compensatory things on the other end. What do you see in that aspect? Or we're going to stay with the simple diets just based on cost?
Yeah. So again, I get back to this kind of, we've got the haves and the have-nots, remember, right? And so I have it is really interesting. I have some producers that are to some degree saying, hey, I don't want to say spare no expense in the nursery, but we need to make sure that we keep our nursery performance where it's at, and if we need to cheapen up something, maybe do that in the finisher. But we've got a good position on the hogs, good position on corn, good position on soybean meals, so let's just keep it rolling. I have other producers that it's like, okay, well, we've got to rethink some things, and we've got to rethink our management structure a little, or I shouldn't say management structure, but nutritional structure, at which and how those hogs are managed nutritionally. And so it seems like I'm seeing a little bit of everything, and I'm not trying to duck that answer, but I certainly have farms that are saying, hey, we know we can't pay more than this for feed. We got to figure out how to make it happen on that without hurting the pig, right? And then other producers are saying, okay, this is where we're at. These are kind of the bounds we need to stay in, and they're in a little better position, and we're still feeding those complex diets and making that work on those farms.
Okay, good. Appreciate that honesty and open answer on that. We talked a little bit about the breeding herd and how we're starting to scale back. There's lots of things involved with the breeding herd. Obviously, we've seen higher sow death loss for various reasons. We've talked about that in another podcast. But modifications. What modifications are producers making in their breeding herd? We talked about sizing, right size for the right labor, right facility, culling less productive animals, even some changing genetics that are a little easier to manage from a health or survivability standpoint. What do you see producers doing to affect their overall cost from that area in the sow farms?
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. When I first came into this industry, I would say the attitude was that the sows are precious, and you kind of whatever you have is working, and then at some point you kind of leave it alone, and that's something I've definitely seen change. I haven't seen any certainly been depops, repops for a number of reasons. Some of those involve a genetic switch, some of them don't, but that could be for any number of reasons. But what I am seeing is a lot of producers taking a look at their sow farms going, okay, how can we get more efficient with a smaller labor force? And, as well as, just kind of came out to Prop 12 is maybe here to stay, right? The way it's looking. And so you certainly see some, okay, we can't afford a new building this year. So maybe we're going to scale back our number of sows to some degree but then, move to a system that might be more easily set up to be Prop 12 compliant, or at least a pen gestation with Michigan, Ohio's rules on being rolled over to pen gestation. That's something we're definitely working with there. So it like I said, I see a lot more of them taking a look at the whole system and, okay, how, what investments can we make in our sow unit that can make things easier on our labor force, that we can maybe kind of right size the number of sows to the labor force and to the building with how we're going to raise pigs in the future. And that probably would have happened regardless of of production costs or anything else, just with the consumer preferences. Consumer preferences might not be fair to say. I think how they vote with their dollar is different than how they vote at the ballot. But how people are voting on the ballot is needing to change the way we produce pigs today. And so I think taking a hard look at those efficiencies probably would have happened regardless. But it's certainly been helpful to producers in these more trying times.
Okay. Is there anything, Dave, that you've seen producers try to eliminate from their program that you can share that really hurt them in the long run, and kind of a hole we don't need to step into?
I think today, if you're producing pigs, it takes a lot to assemble a strong team around you, and that team, it's been somewhat, I'm going to say, under fire in the last 3 years in terms of if you're really good at managing on a hog farm, you can manage a lot of other things, and a lot of other industries need managers. And maybe one of the biggest things I've seen that's been a struggle for farms has been this manager got hired away and maybe had a chance to pay a little more to keep them and chose not to. And I think I've had some conversations with producers that went, wow, maybe we didn't quite realize what we had. And so I think it's on the people side, I think that's something that it could be an easy error to make for some. The flip side is I've got a lot of farms that just really know they got a good cohesive team and know they've got things going on. And I think those groups where they might sometimes get a little off course, if you will, is it's real easy to look ahead and get stressed and want to make some rash decisions. I think it's more important to take a more long-term approach and see, okay, so when do you think we will be profitable? Okay, we're not profitable now, we will be profitable then. What's it going to take to keep us in the game until then? And what things can we eliminate that can be easily put back in then that have a big cost savings? And I think it's in the firefight we all live in as producers today, it's hard to slow down and kind of take that long-term look. But it's something that a lot of the great farms I work with are doing, have great management teams and spending some time on that. And I think what's important is that they keep thinking not 3 months from now, but 3 years from now.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I've been in the industry a long time, and I've had the opportunity to work with producers all over the country. And the one thing that's for sure is most producers are in it for the long time. They're pretty residual, and they have to make changes and adapt to the situations given. And you mentioned Prop 12. Just got that decision down from the Supreme Court. You're right. It's here to stay for a while. And so producers are going to have to make a decision on whether or not they're going to modify their sow herds to meet those requirements. Obviously, it would be a reduction on everybody's part. We know it just takes more space to do that. So, Dave, I think our conversation's been really good this morning. I'm glad you're able to join us. Is there anything else? I guess one of the questions kind of run in with the other one. It says, what's probably the one area that you'd really caution producers to take a hard look at when it comes to cutting costs?
Yeah, no, that's a good one. And I'll go back to my statement on there's only 3 ways we can make money, right? And that is we can reduce our overhead, we can get paid more, or we can become more efficient. And I think the areas that we can really focus on are some of those some of the technology we have out there that'll make us more efficient. And so on some farms that can be real simple. Like we take a look at their sow farm labor has been a struggle. We take a look at their sow farm labor and you look and you go, okay, wait a minute. So this person is utilizing this sow card process that's taking a real long time. Can we implement a cheap technology that frees this individual up for 3-4 hours? And so I think, and I know it's kind of a broad question, but I think it's so producer specific on what their biggest area that they should focus on might be. But I really think it's probably in some of the people in terms of, okay, where are people getting frustrated? What are the roadblocks that they're hitting, and how can we make them more efficient so we can keep doing more with less? And I think I don't know. Those are the areas that get us excited about. I mean, we do it every day in the Randy, we do it every day in the feed industry. And we're helping producers on the mill side always get more efficient. And I think with some of the health and management stress that's becoming the new normal in the swine industry, that's probably our next piece to look at.
Okay. So Dave, it's been a pleasure having you with us today. Go ahead and share with us, I guess, some things that you'd like to wrap this conversation up with.
Yeah, thank you, Randy. So the big thing I think that's important is I get to work with awesome people every day. The reality is, if you're a hog producer today, you're there because you're really, really good. Our industry's tough, and we get to work with so many awesome people. And there's I get to work with so many awesome people at Vita Plus. Randy has an awesome team at APC, but even our competitors are filled with great people. And I think it's important that I know right now it seems tough, but we have a lot of great businesses with great people, and reach out to any of us, lean on any of us. Again, whether it's Randy or I, or even a competitor of ours, our industry is just has some fantastic people that I really think can help producers find creative solutions that are farm specific to them, that will allow them to get through these trying times and come out happy on the other side. I think the real bright side is 2024 has some real optimism to it, right? If we Smithfield reduces their herd, we get some of these other pigs out of the way, Wyndham's able to sort out their plant, and we bring on a second shift at Clemens, and we have some real bright spots actually in export markets right now that are just slow to come on. I think if we could just all pull together to get over the tough spot, I think we'll look forward to a great 2024.
Great. That's great, Dave. I like your attitude. We have to look on the positive side of things. That's what keeps us going, correct? And I do think there's opportunities for producers to go ahead and thrive in these current times. And you've been a great guest with us today. We appreciate having you on. And for those of you watching, we hope that you've gained some insight today on some things you can look at in your operation to improve efficiency. And that's why we bring you these podcasts at APC. We feel it's really important to share some of these insights that we get from our experts out in the field. Feel free to contact Dave or myself. You can look up apcproteins.com as our website. And if you have any questions, go ahead and reach out to us. We want to thank you all for joining us today. And again, take some of these tips, look over your operation and see where you can improve. Dave, thanks so much.
Thank you, Randy.
Thanks for joining us.